And now it's time for us to discuss more of these headlines and simple keywords with Adam joining us via Zoom. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, Lena, and happy cold Thursday.
That might just be a trend. It's December now.
It is. I mean, we've had unusually warm weather, and there's no middle ground in this weather.
No.
I mean, it's suddenly turned to -5, 6, 7, and even 8 degrees in places, and it's quite strange recently, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tough, which is why you have to keep those weather updates handy. It's going to be colder today compared to yesterday, so brace yourselves, local listeners. If you don't have a visual on Adam, I highly recommend that you find us on Arirang Radio's K-pop channel.
Is there something strange?
No, I mean, your facial expressions are so expressive.
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, yeah, very. I mean,
Good
I
morning.
don't like the cold, so I'm expressing that through my facial expression.
All right,
So
let's
tune in to YouTube.
Let's jump into our keyword news portion of the day. So there are a few simultaneous strikes happening in the country. We're going to cover them first. This is our first keyword of the day.
Strike averted.
So unionized workers at Seoul Subway have reached an agreement with management on a corporate restructuring plan, ending a strike that caused some subway service disruptions. But I've got to say it was minimized, if you don't mind me saying. What's the latest?
Yeah, so we did kind of avoid the worst possible incidents of disruptions because these talks did come to an agreement eventually. The two sides resumed talks at around 8 p.m. Yesterday, and they reached an agreement shortly after midnight. The workers had protested against Seoul Metro's plan to downsize its workforce by more than 1,500 employees by the year 2026. It seems they may have come to a compromise on the matter. The management was reported to have accepted demands not to forcefully lay off workers due to financial hardship, as per an agreement they made last year. Now, Seoul Metro has also reportedly partially agreed to increase safety workers, another demand of the union, as well as putting some other safety measures and regulations in place. They have also agreed to a slight increase in wages as well. The Seoul Metro unions began the walkout early yesterday morning, one day after negotiations with the company fell through, but the second round of talks did end in an agreement. Luckily, the strike affected subway lines 1 through 8. It was the first in 6 years. Commuters faced some chaos during the evening rush hour and travel delays. So as you mentioned, there were kind of fears of possibly another tragedy like the Itaewon crush, but luckily that was avoided. And there were no serious disruptions during the morning peak hours as well, when the strike was just kicking off. So the first subway trains this morning have been running as normal. Other lines operated on time after Seoul Metro mobilized retired employees and non-unionized workers as replacements between the morning rush hour as well. Hence why there were no serious disruptions during the morning peak hours, and the same for this morning as well. So some good news there.
All right. As we've talked about on the segment before, there are multiple strikes and another one involving the truckers. It seems that there is no middle ground. Let's take a look at our second keyword of the day.
Broken talks.
So in contrast to the subway strike, negotiations between the government and striking truckers have again fallen through. The sit-down, it lasted less than an hour, and it seemed that both sides were adamant about just expressing their side.
Right, it certainly was a heated round of negotiations. It is the second unsuccessful attempt to reach a compromise over this prolonged nationwide strike. This follows talks on Monday also falling through as well. The two sides resumed the negotiations yesterday, but the talks lasted for only 40 minutes before they walked out of the meeting. The government officials walking out first, and then with the truckers union kind of shouting in protest as well. So it's quite an eventful and heated end to the second round of talks between the two sides. And thousands of truckers launched a strike last Thursday. They're demanding the government extend temporary rules guaranteeing minimum freight rates, which are set to expire at the end of this year. There were some compromises made, the government saying it will extend the system by 3 years, but not accepting the demand to expand the scope of drivers eligible for the system. And to make tensions worse, the government invoked a return to work order on cement truckers on Tuesday for the first time in 18 years. The Land Minister Won Yin-yong upped the pressure on striking truckers. He warned that the government would review the complete abolition of the minimum wage scheme in case they do not return to work. One told reporters after the meeting that price is a key factor in market operations and it cannot be fixed by a specific player among various stakeholders. Of course, truckers are tied in very deeply into logistics and other industries as well, which have been calling for them to adhere to the return to work order, such as construction sites and some gas stations as well. He also raised the possibility of excluding them from subsidies linked to diesel prices, as well as issuing a separate back-to-work order for those in the oil refinery sector, which has also been hit hard by the strike. Now, asked about additional talks with the union, the minister responded negatively, in fact, arguing that the union has been carrying out illegal acts without showing commitment to seeking solutions. There's been some bookings of some violent truckers stopping non-participants in the strike. Now, the presidential office has also reconfirmed its determination to deal sternly with strikes as well. The return to work order has been issued and is being delivered to striking truckers, but some of them are still refusing to return to work. So basically no end in sight at the moment in terms of the strike or any agreement between the government and these unionized truckers.
All right, with that we move on to our third keyword of the day.
Tension in the air.
So South Korea's military says it scrambled fighter jets as 2 Chinese and 6 Russian warplanes entered its air defense zone yesterday. It came without prior notice. So what's the latest?
That's right. There were 2 Chinese H-6 bombers which repeatedly entered and left the Korea Air Defense Identification Zone, or KADIZ, starting at 5:50 a.m. yesterday. Seoul's Air Force immediately scrambled F-15K fighters in response. Later in the day, 6 Russian military aircraft, joined by the 2 Chinese H-6 bombers, flew into the KADIZ. Russia and China appear to be conducting a combined air exercise, according to officials. The military aircraft, though, did not violate Korea's airspace, though. Air defense identification zones are basically unilaterally set by countries. They aren't subject to international treaties or agreements and are larger than traditional national airspaces. Some countries require aircraft that enter the zones to provide identification and flight plans, but usually only if they are headed to a destination in that country, not if they're just passing through, for example. However, it is customary for foreign aircraft entering an ADIZ established by a country to obtain prior permission from its military authorities. That's basically to kind of avoid any potential clashes. Moscow, though, does not recognize Korea's air defense zone. Beijing said the zone is not territorial airspace and all countries should enjoy freedom of movement there. And also there are a few overlapping spaces between Korea and China's air defense zones. Now, the plane's entry into the KADIZ came as South Korea is pushing to strengthen its alliance with the United States amid an intensifying Sino-US rivalry, while maintaining its opposition to Russia's invasion of Ukraine as well. Whether it is linked to that it remains to be seen and is unknown, but it does come amid that kind of time.
All right, we move on to our COVID-19 coverage for the day. This is our fourth keyword.
COVID concerns.
So Korea's new COVID-19 cases have slowed in recent days, but there are still concerns that infections could accelerate during the cold winter months ahead. It just started to feel cold. The warnings came prior to that.
That's right. I mean, we have seen a little bit of a slowdown, but it is hard to gauge the kind of trend with daily infection numbers. Usually they're gauged by weekly infection numbers, which are kind of plateauing, yes, but still concerns are lingering. The government has warned of the emergence of new variants as well during the winter. and it asked people to get updated booster shots designed to protect against Omicron variants. Officials also cite waning vaccine efficacy, as well as more indoor activities, because, of course, more people tend to stay indoors during the cold. People aged 18 years or older whose latest vaccine shot or recovery from COVID-19 have passed 90 days are eligible for variant-specific booster shots. We've been seeing the push for bivalent vaccines to be administered, with monovalent vaccines kind of being died out at the moment. While the growth in daily infections has slowed, the KDCA said it was working with health institutions to handle as many as 200,000 COVID-19 patients a day in case the virus picks up steam again. The reproduction rate of the virus, which represents new infections estimated to stem from a single case, was 1.01 on average for the fourth week of November. The number was 1.09 for the third week of October and has since gradually declined, but the reinfection rate has risen to 12.11% compared to last week. This means that about 1 in 8 COVID-19 patients have been infected at least twice. So reinfections is also something that needs to be considered in these times.
And it seems for the vulnerable groups, a reinfection could be especially fatal, which is why we're giving those advisories to get boosted for all those who are eligible. There you have it. Let's move on to our final keyword of the day.
Ex-Chinese leader dies.
So China's former leader, Jiang Zemin, who paved the way for the country's emergence as a global superpower. He did a lot in the 90s to make China's economic growth especially noteworthy. He has passed away at the age of 96. Tell us the details, Adam.
Right. State media said he had died just after 12 p.m. on Wednesday in Shanghai. It reported the cause of death was leukemia and multiple organ failure. It added that he was recognized as an outstanding leader with high prestige and a long-tested communist fighter. His death comes as China sees some of its most serious protests since Tiananmen Square, with many demonstrating against COVID restrictions. Jiang's death could hardly have come at a worse time, actually, for China's current leader, Xi Jinping. There is a tradition in China of using public mourning gatherings for past leaders to kind of express discontent with the current regime. The 1989 Tiananmen protests that triggered Jiang's own elevation to the top of China's Communist Party and later head of government had their roots in mourning for reformist Premier Hu Yaobang. And now, Jiang did not inspire the same public affection in China as Hu did 3 decades ago, but nonetheless, many in China may look back fondly on the time when he did run the country. Jiang presided over a time when China opened up on a vast scale and saw high-speed growth. He oversaw the peaceful handover of Hong Kong in 1997 from Britain, as well as China's entry into the World Trade Organization in 2001, which kind of intertwined the country with the global economy, hence boosting it to the world's second richest country. But political reforms were also put to one side, and he crushed internal dissent while pursuing a hardline stance on Taiwan. He was also criticized for the heavy-handed crackdown on the religious sect Falun Gong in 1999, which was seen as a threat to the Communist Party at the time. And so he did have his ups, but also his downs domestically as well. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping said the country deeply mourns Jiang's death and will turn grief into strength in building a modern socialist China.
But as you alluded to, the protests have been growing loud against China's zero-COVID policy, so China must figure out how to honor Jiang during a wave of public defiance. Thank
Precisely.
you very much, Adam, for today's coverage. Stay warm. I'll see you tomorrow.
You too, stay warm. See you tomorrow.
If you're listening to our program using the podcast service, just a reminder that we do go live Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Korea Standard Time. So tune in and help us make the show more informative by giving us your input. See you bright and early on Good Morning Seoul.